Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Leo Young, founder of Cornell Communities, a real estate firm revitalizing manufactured housing communities across 8 US states. We'll learn from him about his mantra for real estate investing, especially in mobile home parks, about building wealth and investing with purpose. Welcome to the show, Leo.
Thank you, Ajay. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show, Leo. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you about investing in mobile home parks. We'll talk about all this, but before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. So, brief introduction on me. I'm the founder and managing partner of Cornell Communities. We have two goals here. One is to provide affordable housing and to improve the quality of life for our residents. And number two is to make strong risk-adjusted returns for our investors who are typically high earners and successful business owners.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, how did you come into real estate investing, especially from someone, for someone who was a Tesla's top salesperson?
Yeah, great question. So, when I was at Tesla, so my background is in finance. I studied finance in college, in university, and I took a leap of faith to go into Tesla for their sales team because I wanted to learn a very important skill. I knew back then that sales was a very important skill. I was not good at it at all. So I did it and eventually mastered it to become the top regional salesperson. And during that time, I was just getting very burnt out by the working hours. I mean, as you can guess, working for Elon Musk and, at a time where the company almost went bankrupt, it's very intense. So, they worked you very hard. And I was getting burnt out. So I wanted to find a way to create cash flow, to create wealth that doesn't rely on me clocking in. So I came across real estate investing because I thought, hey, all rich people invest in real estate, right? So then I was looking up some blogs and doing a lot of research. I came across the concept of passive investing. So the idea of you investing with a investment firm, they do everything. They find the deals, they operate it, you get paid the cash flow. So that sounded really interesting. That's how I got into it. And after getting my first cash flow check, I fell in love with real estate. So then afterwards, I got my real estate license, and I was learning and earning at the same time. So helping people and learning the ins and outs of the industry, and then eventually starting my own firm here.
Absolutely. So, when you talk about real estate investing, people generally think about, that I will either be a passive investor or active investor, whatever it is, but it will be good money. In your case, you are talking more about, profit with purpose. Was it from the very beginning that you started? It's very difficult, especially for someone who has come from outside to the US, want to already, it is the story. People want to have that security first and then look at the other aspect. Tell us about your mindset when you started with this real estate investing.
Yeah. As someone who moved to the United States, so I grew up in Hong Kong, and the Asian mentality is very different. It's very savings oriented, playing it safe and just basically saving money in your bank until you can buy your own house. That's like kind of the Asian wealth playbook, right? And then
Right.
the next generation will become better. So coming from that to the US, where the US is very entrepreneurial, they're like, okay, what value can you bring? And hey, you have to invest, you have to risk your capital for it to risk for you, so it can work for you. So that was one big shift that I had to overcome. I didn't really have many mentor figures or any sources of inspiration, so I had to find my own way. So I was fortunate enough to have found real estate and the concept of passive investing. So I've been at all seats of the table. I've been a passive investor. I've been an active investor. I've been an investment provider or a general partner. I've also done partnership deals, and I mean, I've worked for a real estate fund as well. So, I sort of found that passive investing is one of the best ways to, in my mind, in my opinion, to get return for your money because you're not buying yourself a second job. And that's what I found out, when I bought my own property and I was running it and like managing the tenants, and it was tough. It was like a job that I didn't sign up for.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the mobile home parks part. Means even real estate and investing from a passive investment point of view, active, it can be quite, lot of effort there. Mobile home parks, is it an easy one or a much more difficult thing to step into? What is your experience? How would you help people understand what these mobile home parks are? People in this part of the world, especially, they do not generally go by this concept. They're more apartment oriented and not this sort. Help us understand first that about
Yeah, absolutely.
mobile home parks.
So the concept of mobile home parks is somewhat unique to the US and Canada and even the UK and some parts of Europe. So it's a very unique kind of form of multifamily housing. So, multifamily, we traditionally think the apartment building. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, like especially in Asia where land is very scarce, you just build upwards. Versus in the US, there's a ton of land. So these people, they came up with the concept of mobile home parks. Basically, you have homes that are made in factories, so they're mobile homes, so they're shipped to a property and placed on there. The utilities are hooked up, and that's it. So our business model is very simple. We want to rent the land to the mobile home owners, and the residents who live there, they have a pride of ownership because they own their own home. They stick around for longer, so the average tenancy is 10 plus years compared to around 18 months for apartment buildings. So we like that durable demand. And this type of asset class is very special because it performs very well during periods of economic volatility. Because if you think fundamentally, mobile homes, like, you're renting the land, so you can rent it for a fraction of the cost of an actual apartment. And for the rent to be so low, and look, if the economy is bad, you want cheap rent. So we're very fortunate that, like, we have a big amount of demand for our housing, we just don't have enough supply for them. So that creates a unique kind of position where we have really great demand for the asset. The occupancy is pretty stable because people don't really move in and out.
Absolutely. So this particular concept is, is rising. This trend is rising, but a lot of people, could be having some misconceptions. What are some of the misconceptions that you talk about mobile home parks?
Yeah, a couple misconceptions. So one is in the name itself. So mobile home parks almost assumes that the homes are mobile, but they're in fact not. Because once you set the home here, people generally don't leave. It costs around $5,000 to $7,000 or more to move a house. So for someone who's paying, $300-400 in lot rent per month, they're not moving. I mean, they choose to stay here. If they want to leave, they could sell the house, but they're not going to move it. So it helps us maintain that occupancy. And the second thing, also, so technically, these should be referred to as manufactured homes because they're HUD certified, housing and urban development. So from 1978 onwards, these are all manufactured homes, but it's just too long to say. The second misconception is that this is a place where a lot of, like, the, call it, trailer park trash. It's like a stigma, back in the early days, I would say, like, late 90s, maybe early 2000s. It's just like, because it's cheap housing, and the people who live there tend to be, well, the stigma is that they're a little less cultured or whatever, and more crime happens or something like that. Like Eminem has this movie 8 Mile. He lived in a trailer park, and the movie was about how tough his life was. So, um, fortunately, a lot of that has changed over the years. The industry has elevated a lot, thanks to Warren Buffett's companies like Berkadia, 21st Mortgage, and Clayton Homes, and like all these programs. So a ton of basically a ton of Wall Street money came in, and they legitimized the industry. They changed the stigma, and now younger people love to live here, just like regular people. So those are a couple of big misconceptions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So renters, they bring their own homes. You provide them the land and everything, and then it works that way.
Exactly, exactly.
How do
It's a very
you
simple
how do
business
you
model.
differentiate here? Because this trend must be rising. Others are also, if it is profitable, you own the land. With more people come in, that area develops, your land value develops, your investment value develops. And you can exit at a very good price. Help us
Mhm.
understand from that perspective, why has it been so overlooked? How does the trend look like going forward for investing in this particular? And where does the community part come in? Do you feel
Yeah.
this is one area where you can actually impact lives the way you, I guess, must be impacting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the it's kind of a trade-off, right? In terms of the industry being a well-kept secret. So, 20, 30 years ago, it was entirely a secret. Nobody was investing in these, and also consequently, nobody wants to finance them. Nobody wants to insure them. So there isn't a lot of infrastructure to make this able to be operated as an investment grade asset. But it wasn't until a lot of the Wall Street firms came in with their big dollars and stuff. They built out a lot of the inroads into the industry. They made it possible to get a mortgage. They made it possible to get insurance, like all that stuff. And like the public perception has been changed thanks to their efforts. And consequently, the valuations are much higher now than 20 years ago. But that's not to say, it's not going to change anymore, because still there's a ton of interest coming in from both the big players like the Wall Street funds, and also the small players, the regular people that want to buy their first mobile home park. They hear it cash flows very well, and they want to do that. So as far as community goes, it's a very interesting position that we're in, because from what I see out there, there's a lot of misunderstandings just about the industry in general, how to serve the people in them. Because at end of the day, like, these are people living in homes. They want to be here for a long time. How can we serve them? Yeah, we give them a good, clean place to live. We upgrade things where needed. So we'll repave some roads. We'll upgrade the signage or lighting, or even change over from private utilities to public utilities. It doesn't sound like a lot, but to them, it's a big difference. And to the people who understand, it's a big difference. And also, it prevents these communities from getting dilapidated, from getting run down, because when they get too run down, the city will just shut them down. And when these get shut down, then you have like 50 to 100 residents that just get displaced, because they have nowhere else to go. There's nowhere as cheap as here. So, we're really helping them by continuing to offer this affordable housing, by putting in necessary repairs. We budget for it in advance. And yeah, that's one big thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what are the ways one can, in terms of invest into this particular? Do they have to buy their own land? They can become your partner. How does it work in this particular uh,
Yep.
asset class?
Yep. So most of our investors, they partner with us as a limited partner. So basically, what that is that you are limited in terms of your liability, your risk, your involvement. So what you do is you decide how much capital you want to put to work. People put in like 50,000, 100,000, or some even put even more. And for us, we do everything else. We, as the general partner, we have the general risk, the general responsibilities. So we find the deal, we analyze them to make sure that it looks good on paper, that we can get you the investment returns. Our rule of thumb is we want to double your investment once every 5 years or less. And so we analyze it, we sign on to the loan with our own name. So if the project goes south, then the banks come after our own assets. So we put ourselves on the line. and we operate the assets. So we make sure that the rents are collected, that the places look clean, and they're operated well. So we do everything. And on the back end, also the compliance side, make sure that the cash flow is correctly calculated and sent to your bank account.
Absolutely. And how do you exit with so many families already on that particular piece of land? Because the concern is not that the new person will come, the concern is the terms that the new person or landlord will come with. Do they have to,
Mhm.
fully follow that, or are there rules, government rules that that also safeguard the rights of all these people who are staying in their home, but the land is yours?
Yes. So that's a great question. A couple nuances within the space. One is that we generally, we as the property owner, we own the entire property. So it could be anywhere between, 30 and 200 units. So 230 and 200 families that live within the community. And, we manage the entire ground. So it's like if they wanted to exit, they just sell the home, but they continue renting the land. So the next person will continue paying the lot rent, which is what makes the model so interesting. And as far as the residents' rights, that's what I was saying earlier. I think there's a lot of misguided intention. People mean well. The politicians who are passing regulations, they mean well. There's been a lot of rent control laws passing, a lot of restrictions. Call it resident rights. But I mean, as you know, in economics 101, anything that really hinders the free flowing of the economy just makes it less efficient. And how it applies here is that, just for example, maybe a state will say, hey, you can only raise your rents by 3%. However, we know, like during COVID, everything has gone up in price, right? The labor costs have gone up, the materials have gone up, and timelines are getting longer. So then you can cap the revenue, but you're not going to cap the expenses, right? Because the taxes go up, insurance goes up, et cetera. So it makes it hard to operate these well, because a lot of the property owners, they're like, well, I used to make, I don't know, like $100 in profit. Now I'm making 40. So why should I bother improving and putting in the long-term improvements that a property needs? Because I just don't have the budget for it, because these rules keep on passing. So it just hinders the well operation of these communities.
Absolutely. What is your outlook towards wealth building? How do you bring building, wealth building with, purpose? How do you manage that? Either you deal with your mind, or do you also deal, with your heart?
hmm I think it's very important, and it's something I carried over. To me, I know like my time on this world is limited. I mean, like all of us, and for me, I want it to be that I leave the world in a better condition than I found it in. So impact and the purpose behind things is very important to me, and at the center of everything I do. That's why I work for Tesla. Tesla was a dream company of mine at the time. Growing up in Asia, like we see the pollution, like the pollution is like really bad out there. So, you have this American company, they're basically encouraging the world to explore cleaner ways to transport themselves. And that was a really good mission. So then, for me now here with Cornell Communities, for us, we want to a provide clean community or clean uh, place to live for the residents. We also let them have an opportunity to build wealth, because we give them these homes, and we offer it to them. So basically, as we pour hundreds of thousands of dollars into the property, the value of the homes inside the property increase. So for them, they're increasing their equity just by being there, just thanks to us pouring the money in. And then obviously for our investors, they get to allocate capital to a cause that means a lot for them. Hey, like if it don't, there's a saying, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So it has to make money. Like as an investor, you're not going to put money into something that loses money. I mean, that's charity, right? And so for investors, they want to know they can make money. They want to know they can make good money, and it's an extra bonus that they can go towards enabling more affordable housing creation and the sustainability of affordable housing.
Absolutely. What are the challenges that you face in your real estate investing, especially in mobile home parks?
Well, there's a lot of challenges behind the scenes, and that's partially why a lot of these successful people, like the successful business owners, high earners, they're like, "Yeah, Leo, go solve it. I don't want to do it. It's just too much." Because operating these properties on a day-to-day basis is hard work. We have a team to help us. Like I'm very fortunate to have built out the systems and was intentional with that, but yeah, I mean, every day it's like dealing with fires essentially, like, tenant issues or like maintenance issues and like, long term, how do you make the property better, all that stuff. And then also like, how do you navigate the local government relationships or, how do you navigate state regulations that may or may not come. So it is a lot of challenges behind the scenes. And that's why people choose to be limited partners because they don't have to do anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much to learn about all this, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about this, and also perhaps be your client or partner. What's the best way for them to do so, Leo?
Yeah, so there's two ways to reach out. Number one, if you want to learn more about mobile home parks, what we're doing here at Cornell Communities, how we can basically double your investment every 5 years for accredited investors, go to cornellcommunities.com. That's cornellcommunities.com. Or if there's a general question, if I could be helpful, I'll try to respond to your messages on LinkedIn or Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's Leo Young, LeoYoung. And on Instagram, it's Leo Young Real Estate.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.